Today we're taking a look at what came in Judges Guild's Installment V from February of 1979. Please stick around. I'm AZ Mountaineer, and this is our channel, Old School Rules, a place for everyone that loves classic RPGs and anyone who'd like to learn more about them. Today's video continues our look at the products of Judges Guild and their bi-monthly installment for subscribers, with the first of two parts covering the campaign setting, Wilderlands of the Magic Realm. Hope you enjoy today's video. Today we're taking a look at another one of these fantastic Judges Guild products that relate to their campaign setting around the city-state of the Invincible Overlord. I've done a video, put a link up here to the city-state of the Invincible Overlord, which is where their sort of campaign center would be, or like, you know, where the players might start as the major town in that area. But then they've got a lot of wilderness campaigns around it. So this, let's take a look at what you got with this installment. 1979, Mark Holmer is responsible for the Wilderlands setting, and Bob Bledsoe assists, and then he's obviously the Judges Guild team puts out the journal. If you bought this collection outside of the subscription service, it would be $5.75. You would get Journal V, you get the Wilderlands of Magic Realm Booklet 1, and this, as they had done a couple of times, there's like two parts that sort of go together that come in successive installments. So you get the booklet, and you get a set of two-sided judges maps, and then a two-sided sheet for the players maps. And I'll show you again as I have the sort of what has become a standard size here. This is a 22 by 17, pretty large map. It's got very light hexes on it. It's sort of a parchment or heavy stock paper, really high quality product, and really, again, I really am a huge fan of that series of campaign supplements that they put out. Now, if you bought this later, after the publications had happened, you would get two booklets. Later on, these are combined. So you'd get booklet 1, and then booklet 2. We'll cover that when we get to installment W. Also has its own maps. And so later on, you could get both booklets, all the maps. It was all combined as a number they would call number 92, and that was $8.50 was the price. That was just for the full Wilderlands of the Magic Realm collection. And so, but here again, you get half of that, plus you get in Journal V. This is Journal V, Judges Guild Journal number 13. Comes out in February/March 1979. On the left-hand column, it says more dungeon contest winners, so it sort of follows up on the last supplement. And then it looks like it says erroneous grog on the other pillar. And as this shows there, if you bought that journal separately, $1.50. So first we get the just information, publisher statement, advertising rates, and stuff like that. Then we get Jocular Judgments, which is the editorial. And remember, now they've turned that over to Chuck Anshel, who had the Dungeoneer. He got that from Jaquays, did a couple issues himself. He joins Judges Guild, works with them, and also brings that over. So he handles their periodicals at this point. As he mentions, it's been a couple of months. That's sort of the cadence they had at this point. In terms of a little bit of history here, he mentions they were trying to go to the TSR Minicon, but weather prevented that. They did go to Winter War convention in Champaign, which they thought was a very good convention. And they're very excited because they have their new computer. And for those of us who remember this era, you'll laugh, right? This is the TRS-80. 4 disk drives, 2 cassette decks, and a tractor feed line printer, all hooked up to their mighty 32K CPU. I mean, people my son's age don't even know what that means. It's so slow, right? Back in the day, that was a big, big deal. He also mentions people complained a little bit about the last publication, that there were just the journal and too many ads in there. He does some comparison to other zines and pro magazines and says they think they were sort of in line in terms of how many columns were covered by ads versus content. And then he explains here the snafu that happened, that he says, Dragon's Crown was supposed to be in that, but wasn't. And he said the Dragon Crown and the new catalogs were mailed out to the printer, but they got lost. And I think I mentioned in the Dragon's Crown video that there was an original cover art that Jaquays had done. That gets lost, so Jaquays has to redo the art for Dragon's Crown, so there's actually 2 different versions of the cover. Only one of those ever was printed and distributed. Okay, so the next thing we have is prodigious plate mail. It's some suggestions from folks, right? And so this is going to be some suggestions from Ronald Pear for some new cleric spells. He talks about the cleric, his philosophy that the cleric, unlike the mage, is a very different approach. You know, it's not sort of sorcery and tapping into magic as it is using spells to supplement whatever their holy cause is. So he thinks there should be a very different feel to the spells or prayers that they use. Here's his ideas. Goodwill. It's a 30-foot radius spell, and everyone within that sort of feels goodwill towards the caster. Peace, calm, friendliness, etc. Detect treasure will detect in a 10-foot radius around the cleric. I think it moves with the cleric, but detects basically, again, treasure, so like coins, jewels, gems. So it's not really going to detect items that you could sell like swords or armor if they're separated from the treasure. Because it's got to be actual coinage. I guess the idea is things that you could take back and use at the cleric's home base for his deity. It also is an interesting twist, takes 300 gold pieces from the cleric. It says he'll take it out of his backpack, take it out of the monastery if the treasure's kept there, but if he doesn't have the gold to give, then, as he says, the deities don't take MasterCard. Heavenly Strength, 3rd level spell, gives the cleric +3 on attacks and damage for 6 turns, and then he'll be sort of tired, -1 to hit and damage for 1 turn. Or no, for another 6 turns, so the same length of time. Fortune, 3rd level spell. You have to sort of think about something that's likely to happen, and if it does, then you get a bonus. So like maybe if you're going to the combat, you could be more likely to hit, make a check to jump a pit, avoid a trap. But again, you have to be able to tell the DM what is the thing that you foresee that you want the bonus on. You get a +1 on everything up through a D12. You get a +2 on it if it's a D20 roll, and you get +10% if it's a percentile roll. Guiding Hand. Everyone in the cleric's party gets +2 to hit with missiles for 3 turns. 3rd level spell. Empathy. For 3 turns, you can ascertain the feelings or emotions of anyone within 60 feet. Not their thoughts, just their general impression. 4th level spell. Defense. Adds +3 to the armor class and saving throws for 1 turn. Amnesia. 5th level spell. I like this one. Affects 1 victim, gets a saving throw. If you fail a saving throw, then you won't remember anything that's happened in the 10 turns right before it was cast. You can see where that could be really helpful, assuming you don't have a party that kills everything. Mending allows the cleric to mend inanimate objects, armor, weapons, spell books, scrolls, whatever it might be, something non-magical. Possession. If the person fails a saving throw, you become completely possessed essentially by the cleric under his or her control for 6 turns. Don't like that so much for a good aligned cleric, but again, that's the spell. Walk on Water does exactly what it says, lets you walk on water for 6 turns. The All-Seeing Eye. The cleric can see anything within 120 feet. Invisible, astral, secret doors, shadows, anything that's there, he'll be able to see it. Magic Mending, just like the other inanimate object mending, but here this will affect magical items as well. Defensive Circle, it's like the defense spell, but it's a 10-foot radius, right? And the defense spell gave the cleric +3 to armor class and saving throws. Now it's going to do to everyone that's inside that area with the cleric. Alter Alignment, you become the alignment of the cleric for 6 turns and a 10% chance per level of the cleric over that of the person touched, that becomes a permanent change. And finally, kind of a really cool spell is Excommunication, a 7th level spell. You have to touch the opponent. Has to be the same alignment, lawful, neutral, chaotic, doesn't care about good or evil, don't know why, and you permanently remove that person's ability to make a saving throw against clerical prayers or magic, and you cannot benefit from any curing from a cleric after you've been excommunicated. That's a super powerful spell, and it seems to be permanent. That doesn't seem right, but in any event, pretty good spell. Then there's a letter from a guy who came to visit Bob Bledsoe, and he says, I really didn't share all the things I wish I had shared when I came to visit you at Judges Guild headquarters. I was a little awestruck, and now I want to share some stuff about my home campaign with you. So I'll pass on a lot of this stuff. The two things I wanted to share. The first one, he talks about his favorite character, the half-elf magic user fighter. And this one, he says, has survived anything thrown at him. And where he said it? He has defeated a number of gods: Surtur, Salagus, Qualmagarn. I don't know who else this other guy is. He has a bunch of permanently charmed creatures under his command, many dragons, demons, including Orcus. So some of these people, and he decided to make himself an archdevil, third in line behind Asmodeus and somebody else. This guy's a little over the top with his character. I also think he says he's half elf, half demon. I don't know, man. This guy's way out of control. And he also says he has a whole bunch of games, board games, fantasy games, etc., around 41,600 at last count. So in any event, this guy's got a lot of stuff going on, way into gaming for sure. Okay, then they want to announce a new contest, another dungeon contest. Remember, they just completed one. Tips from the tower. So more ideas here for some things to use in your own campaign. This guy's got the Staff of Turning, +3 turning undead. I like that. Maybe it's a little overpowered with +3, but I like something that boosts a particular skill. Gauntlets of Finding allow you to find secret doors, trapdoors, and invisible objects on a 1d6. The Ear of Hearing allows you to hear as if you're a 13th level thief. The Ear or Ears of Deafness, cursed magic item, do the obvious. Gauntlets of Strangulation, cursed item. You put them on, you strangle yourself, unless somebody can cast remove curse before you cause yourself to asphyxiate. Let's see. Word of Command is something a magic user can command an object to adhere to another spell that's been cast on it. So it's sort of like you cast a spell and then you use this command, I guess, to make it either work upon command, I think is what it is, right? So you would sort of imbue this thing with a spell and then use a word of command to sort of enchant it, I guess, so that when it doesn't work until the word of command is spoken, and then that spell will come off from that inanimate object. That's how I think I read that guy's idea. Some other people talking about how much they enjoy Judges Guild, how helpful it is, and so on. Got a new magic item, the Two-Bladed Sword of the Paladin. It's 2 +5 Holy Avenger swords that have been welded together in the middle, sort of like Darth Maul. So now you get these two swords with this double handle here in the middle. You get 2 attacks per round, of course, +5 on each because they are the Holy Avenger swords. You negate magic, and you do 2-handed sword damage. Remember, this is early on, so we don't have the... this guy, or at least, is playing like Woodgrain Box, I think, if I read his notes correctly. All right, another guy who compliments how much great stuff they give him from Judges Guild. Another happy customer, if you will. Okay, so that's sort of their letters column, I think. All right, now they have some dungeon contest participants that didn't get printed in the last issue. It's an oversight. So here's John Pugh's level 1. Kind of cool. Here's his level 2. Now that looks like 1980s dungeon to me. His level 3. These are kind of funhouse dungeons. I mean, just like or menagerie dungeons, right? Just rooms full of monsters sitting there waiting for you to open the door so they can engage you. That's his level 4. It's his level 5. And here's his level 6, which did win a prize for 3rd place. All right, then we have a little bit of a cartoon illustration, The Misadventure of Erroneous Grog. And you hear this cauldron bubbling. He opens it up to check. Looks like a dagger comes out, then a battle axe comes swinging at him. He slams it back and said, "He's not done yet." But bump. Here's an article on ancient miniature wargaming, like traditional wargaming. And we have more opinions. So this seems like there's 3 different columns here where people wrote in and shared their opinions with the guys from Judges Guild. But whatever, right? That's okay. So here's a guy writes in and says, "I've got some ideas for enchantment," which is pretty good, I think. So he talks about the different things you can enchant: swords, potions, rings, or anything circular like a necklace or a brooch, or a bracelet, staff, other types of weapons, general enchantment, which is giving an object some type of power, great enchantment, which he says could be either enchanting an item by endowing them with a portion of the enchanter's own power, or imprisoning some other type of being or spirit within it and using that power. He goes through here. He's got rules for the way you have to research, how you can learn how to do these different things, the cost. You're going to have some type of a workshop, whether you rent that out or have to build it yourself, and so on and so forth. He's got some ideas on the time period, the amount of gold you would invest, chances, modifications on these things based on like how powerful you're trying to make this, right? So I'd say like a +1 dagger going to be a lot easier than making some type of +5, sword with 3 special powers. He talks about that as well as how things can have different sort of powers in there. I think he says up to a maximum of 6 powers is his rule. And other things you can put in there other than just an enchantment. Anyway, very well thought out. I thought that was pretty good stuff. It goes on for like 4 or 5 pages here. Okay, then we have a couple more illustrations. This more misadventures. "Gee, fellas, I can't find any secret doors." And he clicks something, and then this creature comes out. You can see this creature comes out behind the door, this big shadowy shape, and he says it's lunchtime. And then here we are walking along down the hallway, and these creatures come up behind them. He says, "I wonder what's eating Harry. I haven't heard a word from him all day," because they're going along. He has literally been eaten by goblins or some type of creatures. And finally, in the back, we have our list of items that you can buy. It used to be called the booty list, but this just basically looks like an order page. It has just a little bit of Judges Guild stuff, and then a bunch of miniatures and games from other companies. Okay, so that's our look at the journal, and then we have the campaign item, which is the Wilderlands of the Magic Realm, Booklet 1. You got this cover. This cover will show up again on a later product, and then they will switch, and they'll only use the booklet. When they combine it, they use the Booklet 2 cover, and this art gets sort of recycled and used again. This is Jaquay's art on the front. Mark Homer's credit for doing this design work with assistance from Bob Bledsoe, and here's our table of contents. Essentially, we have 2 sections: the Isle of the Blessed section of the campaign world and the Ebony Coast. Here's the big map, and so that's the Ebony Coast, that's the Isle of the Blessed, and then the one to the right is the Ebony Coast. So remember these maps have little hexes, and if you look very carefully, very light, they're numbered. And so here they give you the hex number where these different monsters would be encountered. Then some hexes where there are villages that give you the name, population, predominant race, civilization level, basic alignment of the prevailing alignment, the leader of that area, and any particular resources they're known for. And then also at the bottom here, some different castles or citadels that might be located on these sections of the map. And then we get into, I think, the really cool part about this. So here's the ruins and relics section, right? And just to give you a few of these, right? So again, the first one here, there's just a merchant ship on its side. The next one, there's a granite statue of an 8-foot scarab beetle jutting out of a coral bank. And there are 100 of giant water spider eggs attached. Totally random, right? The fifth one down. A mirror of life trapping hangs on the west wall of a partially sunken stone tower, covered with lances pointing skyward. Just sort of like some totally random thing you come up against. This is the ultimate resource for the judge, referee, dungeon master who likes a totally open sandbox, because we've got this massive area of wilderness. All kinds of interesting and creative ideas here for little nuggets of things. You could build whole adventures or, evening adventures around some of this stuff. It's just really great, sort of like idea kernels, and how they just keep coming up with this stuff, I don't know. Because it doesn't, for me, it's a fantastic product. It doesn't feel old. It doesn't feel sort of forced or repetitive. It's just really a font of creativity here with these guys. All right, even more. Now we have the idyllic isles of the Blessed, and these are all these, we'll show you the map in a second, all these little different islands and what's on those islands of interest. So here's the random one. As you come into throwing distance of the northern island, you hear in the distance the sound of someone playing music. If you attempt to locate the music, you'll find it appears to be coming from a beautiful woman with platinum-colored hair playing a lute. But actually, she's a witch trying to capture young adventurers and make them slaves. Bam. There is a pretty good encounter, right? Sometimes it's just monsters. Sometimes it's just a little something descriptive and there's nothing particular deep about it. You'd have to do, work it up yourself if you wanted to. But again, 5-6 pages of these ideas. So here's the Isles of Blessed section of the larger map. You can see a couple of peninsulas there and then all these little tiny islands on there. So look at it one sort of quarter of the map at a time, blown up for a better view. Here are those peninsulas with a few little, islands in between. Here's the other side of that peninsula coming down. You see the lake and a river opening up into the ocean or the sea, an inlet of sorts, and some more islands. There's a southern continent, if you will, coming up to almost meet the northern peninsula there. This has got a really cool couple things on here, if you can see them. One called the Lake of the Gods. And then there's a little town called Foundation, Ettenwald, Gorserain. And then we have all these little peppered islands. And then over here in the open sea, again, a bunch of little islands. Great adventuring, right? And if somebody really wants a sandbox and they just want to roam around, this is a fantastic product. Okay. Second half of that is a different section of the world map called the Ebony Coast. So again, they give you the hex for the villages and the information about those. Some layers, which are monster encounters, castles and citadels. Again, you blow those things out with as much detail as you want. You could go to the castle book, right, that the Judges Guild put out and use those for your castles. Here are the idyllic isles of the Ebony Coast. Again, just amazing, really, really interesting creativity here. A couple pages of ruins and relics as well. Here's our map. You see this map, again, a lot of empty space out there on the sea. Start up at the top left, just a few islands sort of look like Hawaii. Come over here to the mainland, right? And you've got some mountains, some marsh, some forest lands around here. And we have this little peninsula, an area in the middle called the Dragon Dome, surrounded, that's up in the mountains, surrounded by forest area. Then we see the Moonstone Isle, Blackwell Isle, pretty good location for a pretty good adventure there, I think. And then just basically a lot of ocean or sea around that with just a couple little islands out there to far, far left. And then there was a piece of paper just tucked in here titled Designer's Notes. I thought this was kind of interesting. So if you go back and look at some of the earlier videos about this campaign setting that they flesh out like this, right, with just a couple of maps at a time, they said, note the following descriptions are the same on map 12 and map 4. And they give you the name on map and where it is, what hex it's on map 12, what hex it's on map 4. These 5-mile hexes randomly serve as a nexus point between the two maps. 60% probability of shifting between maps. In the event there is no shift on the day your party encounters them, use the following descriptions for the Isle of the Blessed campaign map instead. And then they give you some alternate mile description you could use for that. That's our look at campaign, or at Installment V, the Wilderlands of the Magic Realm Campaign Booklet 1, Judges Guild Journal V. Great products. I love these Judges Guild products, and like I said, in particular, the campaign setting stuff from the city-state all the way through all these surrounding areas you could use just as easily as today as you could back in the late 70s. Hope you all are enjoying our video series. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you're subscribed. If you have friends who might enjoy our content, please send them our way. Hopefully they'll be part of the community as well. Have a great rest of your day, and until next time, my friends, keep rolling 20s.